It's a pleasure to be here. I've only spoken once or twice before at a primarily spiritual / religious gathering. I've done a lot of talks in other settings, and there's always something very special about coming to a community such as yours. And so when Tina invited me, I was very much awed. And sometimes as I listen to descriptions of myself, I kind of have to unify myself in the way that I see myself and the way that other people see me. And the theme of unity is very, very important. And it's central to just the initial meditation we can share together this morning. And I'm going to stand. And I just ask all of you, and you're very familiar with this, if you're comfortable closing your eyes, do so. If not, that's fine. And really to recognize that peace is already here. And I was talking earlier with Neil and speaking about how in the usual course of our day, we are caught up in our emotions and our thoughts. And they are very loud. And they're very opinionated. And they're very righteous in their self-justification. And they have a truth and a reality to them, but they are only one small part of what makes us human. And so on the other side of thoughts and emotions, we can either drop in to our heart, our spirit, our soul, below the neck, or for some folk, they rise up. They see themselves moving to higher levels above, or connecting with the greater universe out there, of which we are still a part. We are not separate. As Carl Sagan said, we are the stuff of stars. And when we experience this unity, something bubbles up inside which is beyond words, because the words only point to the experience in which we know ourselves at a very deep level. And there are many aspects and words which try but fail to capture such an experience. And its qualities are vast and expansive, still, quiet, peaceful, open, accepting. And in this space, while we can still be aware of thoughts and feelings, somehow they have taken a break. They're not quite so loud. They're not taking up as much space. They might be soft and distant. And in keeping with the symbol of the yin-yang, the full circle, the completeness, we recognize the circle, we recognize the dark and the light, and we recognize a harmonic relationship, the smooth curves that separate the dark and the light. And we see the light in the darkness and the darkness in the light. And it's to come to a unity where those two things lie alongside each other. again. The grief that might remind us of the love that we might have lost. The tension of war whose sister is peace. And so while we may feel helpless or hopeless about being able to facilitate vast changes on this blue orb circling a relatively small sun, we always have the capacity to find within ourselves the capacity for an inner peace, where we recognize both our strength and our weakness. We learn to control what we can by expressing our freedom to set intention and permission for what is most important in life. And we move towards healing and fullness and flourishing and satisfaction and ultimately love. And we know it because we all already are in peace, with peace, and at peace. If your eyes have been closed, you can open them. Sure, we can sing a song, I Surrender. I have a conductor of the orchestra, I'm merely one instrument. There's another instrument over there. Thank you. I prepared notes, but inevitably I find they are merely starting points. So at the not-for-profit I'm at, Cinema, up on the wall, it was started by a colleague of mine, a mentor, a friend, Dr. Badri Ricky. And on the wall at Cinema he has a number of posters. One of them says, surrender is not giving something over to the divine and being left behind. It's actually leaving something behind and giving yourself to the divine. So as I was listening to the words of the beautiful song, it reminded me of that. The talk this morning is really just an elaboration, a commentary on what we've just experienced. And as offering you words, to let those words come alongside the experience. This is a very experienced group with the concepts of peace and unity. So I don't need to give much intellectual explanation, understanding, or academic pontification. Peace is already the foundation of who we are. So yes, babies are born screaming, but they find peace within a few minutes when they are comforted or fed, clothed or warm. And they settle back to peace. Our baseline in our bodies and our physiology is peace and rest. It's only when we stir things up, and things get stirred up because of outside or inside, our thoughts, our feelings, our stories, our ideas, our judgments, our criticisms. So peace is already the foundation of our heart and our spirit and our soul. And I've come also to recognize, and I think everybody does, that peace is both a verb and it's a noun. It's a doing and it's a being. I am practicing peace while I am also being peaceful. We live in a world where we tend to separate being and doing, and we get very focused on the doing. And the doings need to be done. But how are we being while we are doing our doing? And it's much better to be doing things in a peaceful, kind, loving, gentle, intentional, purposeful, life-affirming, pick whatever you want, kind of way. Much better way to do things. And then we start to heal the world. We heal ourselves. And it's no accident that the words heal, and health, and wholeness, and holy, and holiday all have the same root. Those words all have the same root. It's very interesting. And the word for heart is cardiac, C-A-R, in French, cœur. And those three letters, C-A-R, are also the roots of the word care, and caritas in Latin, which is charity, and it's the root of the word courage. So those words just flow together. And that reminds me that these experiences come from the inside upwards. That's how I experience them. Other people might experience them coming into themselves from a different source. And it doesn't really matter because we're at that interface that Tina spoke about at the beginning. And then what the mind does is the mind tries and puts words to those experiences. So when we just feel the connection between all those CAR words and the wholeness, heal, health, it's not because there's some magic made up language there. It's because they are related from the experience itself. Inner peace is available through all of you, and you know this well, through contemplation, through prayer, through meditation, through reflection, through journaling, through listening to the birds, through getting out of the stories in our heads. So how does peace help us spiritually? Well, it's universally accessible for everybody. And peace is one of the things that you might set an intention for. For other people it might be freedom. For other people it might be rest and relaxation. For other people it could be flourishing. For other people it could be connecting to the cosmic Christ. For other people it could be connecting with Allah, or Jesus, or Buddha nature, or one of the many manifestations of the divine in the Hindu traditions. or the ancestors in the Shinto traditions, right? Or the animism of indigenous folk on all continents. It doesn't matter, because there's one truth and all the paths are the right ones. I think Tina's heard me say this, that I will drink from any well as long as the water's not poisoned. So it enhances life and it's flourishing. My journey from mindfulness through meditation took me into looking at all religions, and then took me even deeper to the mystics. And for a nice Jewish boy like me, it's interesting that I've read an enormous amount of Christian mysticism. Evelyn Underhill, Teilhard de Chardin, who talks a lot about cosmic consciousness on the earth, that we're evolving spiritually towards a spiritual awakening and a greater cosmic consciousness. To Thomas Merton, to Meister Eckhart, to Howard Thurman, who was a mentor and a friend of Martin Luther King Sr. and Martin Luther King Jr. And we're all on the same journey. And the central core pieces are the same. Doesn't matter what the packaging is. And human beings have a way of getting very attached to their particular packaging. And this is the right package, and this is the right book, and the right prayer, and the right ritual. And even within the bigger religions, they're arguing and fighting with each other. It's craziness. Because in the end, there is only unity. So we see the unity in all the stories everywhere. And this is a very interesting month. Tomorrow is my late mother's birthday. She died 41 years ago. I was only 23 at the time. My birthday is on the cusp. My birthday is on the 21st of December. Just when the darkness starts to turn to the light. And I always go, yes, in 3 weeks' time, the days are going to get longer. By 2 minutes. It's no accident, of course, that the Festival of Lights, Hanukkah, starts this week, and the candles. And Carl Jung, the psychologist, whose father was a his father was a minister. So Carl Jung was the most famous pupil of Sigmund Freud and had a split from him. And Carl Jung started to go much broader in his understandings of the deeper aspects of the unconscious and understanding and consciousness and so forth. And he coined the term collective unconscious. He spoke about archetypes and symbols, and all religions have these symbols. The powerful, the weak, the feminine, the divine feminine, the divine masculine, the unity. It's interesting that even in warring nations, like ancient Athens, the Acropolis has a temple on the top, and the temple is not built to Zeus. The temple is built to Athena, the goddess, the divine, the gift, the life giver, the receiver, and the giver of life. And so we move to becoming much bigger than the darkness and the pain and the war. And Carl Jung said famously, and I think it's my favorite quote of all time from anywhere, from any source, as far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. It's because of the darkness that we light candles. It's because of pain that we want ease. It's because of anxiety that we want to relax. It's because of sadness and emptiness that we want to move to fullness. It's because of war that we want the peace. So hidden in the difficulty and the challenge is the invitation We just turn it around. It's like the mathematical reciprocal. When I'm hungry, I look for food. So feelings are real, but they're very valuable, even the yucky ones. The theme this morning and the notes earlier on about hope. So hope can be about expectation. And some people give up because they don't get the expectations. Or they failed and they say, well, I've stopped hoping because it's not going to come true anyway, so why must I invest? So the writer Havel, H-A-V-E-L, who led the revolution in Czechoslovakia many, many years ago in '86, and he won a Nobel Prize, he died a couple of years ago. And I read an article by Margaret Wheatley, Beyond Fear and Despair, I think is the name of the article. And Havel is quoted as saying, hope is an orientation of the heart. Hope is not an expectation that things are going to work out well, but that somehow what we are doing makes sense. That what we are doing makes sense. And that I found very helpful because it relieves me of an expectation. Well, is this going to happen? Is it not going to happen? We know in the Buddhist traditions, attachment to ideas and ego and all of that leads to a lot of suffering. So something makes sense. And when that something makes sense, we bring it back to this moment. Looking for peace, finding peace, know that it's available. That is something that makes sense and is worth investing our time and our heart and our spirit and our soul in. So wrapping up, how does this relate? Tina gave me an outline for the talk. She said, please can you relate it to the unity principle? So like a good boy, which I am, I will do so. God is, well, in keeping with the principles of unity and the above and the below, and there's no separation and the yin-yang, we are part of the universe and God. So therefore we are godly. In Genesis it says we are made in the image of God. So when it says God is, we're actually saying I am as well, which is the very next one. There's no separation there. And if you can't find it inside yourself right now, you're never going to find it somewhere else or out there. Because it's up to each of us to do this inner work in a way that's going to be life-affirming and joyous, and pleasant and loving and accepting and forgiving and compassionate, and fill in whatever adjectives you like after that. God is, I am, I create. We are constantly creating ourselves. That's why we're called creatures. So back in the 60s, and when I was in my early 20s, I thought I had to find myself. Forget it. There's no fixed, unchanging Allan to find. And initially that could seem like a disappointment, but in fact it's an opening and a freedom to create yourself because you are a creature. We have this capacity to create what we want inside ourselves and the kind of world and the kind of communities we want to be part of. That creation is also much more than thinking and doing. There's this inner life. Call it whatever you will. The ground of your being, cosmic consciousness, the Spirit of Christ, God's will, whatever, Buddha nature, whatever, Gaia. I don't care what you call it. It's all the same thing. I don't care about the words. I'm interested in the moon. I'm not interested in the finger pointing at the moon. I'm interested in the moon. God is, I am, I create, I pray. Praying involves a certain intention, a certain experience, and that's why we do silent moments in all traditions across where we orient ourselves inwardly so that we bring a certain kind of spirit and focus. And then we act in new ways. 9 months into COVID, I was going through what everyone else had gone through. And I got through all the emotions, the grief and the loss and the fear and the uncertainty and the worry and the heartache and the stuckness, all of it. And I came up with 2 3-letter acronyms. The first is SPK. So I'm always jumping into the future. I do a lot of futuring. And I said to myself, slow down. To come back to this moment. Slow down. The moment I did that, I noticed I was more patient. There's the P. And being more patient, I'm more kind to myself and others. Oh, that's an interesting way. So that's how I did it. And then I said, once I've SPK'd, what is it that I want to be doing? How do I want to be? And then I got another acronym popped in my head, PBJ, which became my guiding lights. Peace, beauty, and joy. Now, other people may have other ones. You can use whatever word you want, because as I said, it doesn't really matter what the word is. It's what it's pointing to. Focusing on the moon or the sun or the light, within and without. And somebody asked me once, when I mentioned this, they said, well, how do you know when you need to look for PBJ? And I said, oh, you won't need to look far and you won't need to wait long. When I'm at war with myself, in my own mind, arguing, I'm right, but this, but that, if only they, if only he, if only I, if only this, if only that. I'm at war. I'm arguing inside my own head because no one else is listening to the conversation. So in those moments when I'm at war with myself, where I believe I'm at war with the world out there, I come back to peace, simply because it's a better way of being. Beauty, when do I need to look for beauty? Well, when I'm at war, it's pretty ugly. It feels yucky. I don't talk about good feelings or bad feelings. I talk about yummy and yucky. Kids like it. And we want more of the yummy stuff. Of course we do. Less of the yucky stuff. So I look for beauty when I get ugly. And you feel it, you know it. It's a certain kind of energy. It's a certain kind of vibration. It's not a symphony inside, it's a cacophony. That's where we're at war and it's ugly. So the P and the B, peace and beauty. And then when do I look for joy? When all the D words show up. Because the war and the ugliness leads to the D words. Depressed, despairing, despondent, defeated, derelict, damaged. So I often, in the course of the day, SPK, and I look for the PBJ. Without denying that the yucky stuff is there. This isn't about positive psychology. This isn't about pretending my feelings aren't real. This isn't about denying pain or trauma or grief. But it's about lighting candles when it's dark. And so on that note, I want to just thank you very much for the opportunity to join your community this morning and to share my heart with you and to be supported. I know that sometimes when I'm feeling alone and I'm a single voice out there, there's actually a lot of voices that are crying out for that unitary spiritual awakening. And it's very interesting because when I attended a number of retreats years ago, and most of the retreats I attended were teaching mindfulness or meditation. Lots of them are led in the States, Buddhist teachers. Lots of them are Buddhist teachers. And I heard somebody saying the word enlightenment, it didn't quite capture something for me. Because it was a little too vague. And then one of the teachers said, awakening. I was really happy to see the word awakening here this morning. Because what are we awakened to? We awaken to our own divine nature. We awaken to our own assets, our inner assets. We awaken to the capacity we have for choosing our attitude about any situation. And so we awaken to ourselves when we've been put to sleep by the old stories and the old emotions. We come back to ourselves and we realize that we're not separate, and we reconnect with ourselves, and we learn to live in love and kindness and compassion and peace and joy and creativity. And suddenly the darkness fades away. Right, as did my So thank you very much. It's a pleasure.